Awesome. All right. Let's get this thing going. Okay. Waiting to see. Let's do the sorry here. Let's okay. There it is. Welcome to the webinar, guys. We'll give it just a second as our friends are jumping aboard. Welcome, welcome. We will get started shortly. If you could, let us know where you guys are calling in from. I recognize a few names that are friends of ours. So, but if you could drop in the chat where you're calling in from today, would love to hear more about where you're hailing from. I know I am currently actually in Nashville at the moment, wrapping up a trip, and I'm heading home tomorrow. Anna, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm here in northern Minnesota, but travel is something we both do, right, Ryan? So,
Mm,
um, 3 days ago I was in Michigan. Yesterday I was almost in Iowa, and today I'm in northern Minnesota. So we're getting ready to head to Vegas. IRE is a big event.
yeah, for sure. We got a Yooper up in here, Upper Michigan, and New Mexico. What's up, Hillary? Good to see you. Welcome, guys. So, because we have a lot that we're covering, we're going to get rocking and rolling. So strap in and let's get into it. So this talk is all about market expansion for contractors. So how do you choose the right market? How do you target the right customers and build sales systems that convert? So I'm Ryan and I'm joined by Anna. We have some formal intro slides here shortly, but we're super glad you're here. So what you're going to learn today is that data drives results for market expansion. You'll learn how to define your ideal customer and not guess. You're going to learn how to identify customer locations, which is quite the tricky scenario, and people miss that a lot. Understand better behaviors and how the behaviors of your buyers actually are with their media consumption and things like that that trigger action, and build effective messaging and expand strategically. So this is what you will learn today. So if this is all good, give me a thumbs up or something in the chat saying this sounds awesome, and let us know. Let us know in the chat. Does this all sound good to you? Are we on the right page here, guys? Let us know. Let's do it. Beautiful. Thanks, guys. So, how to make sales and marketing work as a team. This is a big one that a lot of folks struggle with. So, in this webinar, you'll learn how to build a sales plan as well, how to fix sales constraints, how to optimize your process and people before you expand, how to attract A players, how to attract, onboard, and ramp them up with a real system, and install a management cadence. So, we kind of have a great team today with Anna being the marketing expert, and I'll be your sales expert today. So, Anna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks so much for having me, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here and super excited to share with the team today. My resume is listed here at a high level, but I think one of the key components is our agency has worked within the roofing industry for almost 20 years. I work with a lot of manufacturers, enterprise accounts, and speak across the country and have been the chair for National Women in Roofing and past president for the Roofing Technology Think Tank. So deeply committed to investing in the industry and most importantly, providing solutions that deliver results. And today I'm excited to talk about this topic because we as business owners and strategists need to shift from just talking about platforms and rather talk about the people. And that's where the great synergy happens with STG and Ryan and our team.
Excellent. Well, we're so glad to have you and your expertise today. So, I'm Ryan, founder of SDG. We've worked with nearly 1,000 contractors since 2018, and we help build predictable revenue. I know predictable sounds like a dream. It would be great to have some predictable revenue versus this up and down roller coaster ride of revenue. We want to help you, and we work with you on sales infrastructure and KPIs. So job descriptions, comp plans, management job descriptions, those so those types of things. CRM and accountability and developing high-performing, self-sufficient sales teams. This is what we're all about. And so I will be bringing the heat today on the second half of the call after Anna lights it up. So, Anna, you got to let me know which side's yours, okay? Because I'm forgetting. Uh,
All good. I think
so,
one of the key things when you look at why market expansion is difficult is that you see through the lens and the data that you have access to. And so we're going to speak to how to shift that and how to transition from a gut feeling into a stable data-driven decision. And with that data, you can see the full landscape. I always tell my team and our clients, when you shift from that lens of what you look through and you have the perspective of data from all angles, you can transform the outcome and your strategic decision making to that data-driven, very accurate strategy.
cool.
So we're going to talk through all of these key components and make sure from a marketing and sales strategic decision making that you are confident and you understand how both of these things work together and you have a plan that's proven and a track record that many of our customers are vouching for and have seen success as well as Ryan's.
Yeah, I mean, expansion breaks down on the sales side when sales infrastructure is just not ready. So, like, the wrong person or the wrong structure, how do we go about doing this? The underestimating systems. People underestimate how many systems are really required. It's like, oh, they should be able to go, eat what they kill. It should work, right? Well, it doesn't always work, and then you're kind of back on the hamster wheel over and again, and then you kind of give up. You just say, "Oh, this wasn't for us." So people underestimate that. They make entrepreneurial assumptions, and also there's a lot of individual dependency. So that's when it breaks and when market expansion is not ready from a sales standpoint. So we're gonna have back to you, Anna, on this slide.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one thing that I commonly hear from contractors is, we know exactly who our ideal customer is. And wouldn't it be great if the outcome of this is, in fact, a reality where you are able to understand with accuracy who your ideal customer is? And that goes beyond just the building envelope and the status of the roof, but you understand much more in a granular detail who that customer is and why you're expanding into certain markets. And you can bring this information to your sales team, to your ops, and they are prepared for this growth. So you can be very strategic about what that looks like. And your messaging to those prospective customers at the very first touch point is authentic and you're speaking to their pain points. That's the outcome that our team helps bring to the table.
Awesome. And sales outcomes. So like marketing generates the leads, but the sales team actually converts at a high rate. That's what we're looking for. You can quickly diagnose where deals are getting stuck and how to fix it. So where are they getting stuck? How do you fix it? How do we fix the sales reps handling of an objection at this part of the process, or this price objection, or this competitor objection, or whatever that may be. Um, you can confidently recruit, onboard, train, and ramp sales reps in expansion. You're like, hey, I know that when it's time to recruit, this all is going to work rather than, man, I hope we find the right person. Or I hope when we do find the right person, we hope that the ramp is going to work and the training is going to work rather than, hey, this is going to work, right? And then your revenue growth is repeatable, not dependent on A plus rock star reps, or even worse, the founder of the business. You're having to depend on that person to do all the work. Rather, you can work with the talent you bring in and they will create predictable outcomes. So back to you, Anna.
Awesome. Well, super excited. Like Ryan said, this is a two-part, so I'm going to take over the marketing. And as we look at the next slide, what I want to talk about is the pillars that come into play when we're looking at marketing for expansion. And this is very much a strategic shift from simply saying we're going to move into this town and that's uh, just how it is, right? There's not the data backing up the strategic expansion. And so let me share a quick story. A large brand came to us and said, we are sitting at 150 million in annual revenue. We're going to double that revenue in 12 to 18 months. And let me tell you, they hit that goal in 12 months. They didn't need all 18 months. They doubled their revenue. But the key component was bringing the data into the strategic expansion strategy. And so that's why we're here to talk today, because you're here with a mission to look at your growth and your strategy. So the first component in the marketing expansion is the data collection. We then look at who are those customers that have signed on the dotted line and said, yes, we want to do business with you. And that's key because you need to segment between the people who are just raising their hand and interested and the people who are actually paying the bills, right? We're interested in EBITDA at the end of the day. And what is and where is that customer coming from? Modeling that and looking for more customers. That then leads us into when you model that, you can understand your market strategy and the execution. Because when you look at the execution, you have greater clarity on the people. You then can understand the platforms in which they engage with and convert through. And that's critical. Otherwise, you're spending money in a lot of different places. Then we look into the implementation, the measuring, and optimizing the plans. And this is where a lot of agencies live. They implement, they measure, and they optimize. And we say, let's start earlier up in that funnel because every dollar has a name and every penny counts. So, with that, those are the four pillars we're going to be walking through today. As we move forward, let's dive into that first pillar, data collection. And I think this is an incredibly core component that most people raise their hand and they say, I have a CRM and I'm good to go. But as we've worked with countless companies across the country, what we found is at a C-suite level, yes, you're using a CRM, you're using the core components, that's awesome. But you have to ensure that your entire team understands that this CRM is more than just completing jobs and making sure that lead is followed up on, but it also helps build your strategy for your business growth. And with that, what is the data in which we're going to use in order to pivot and be very strategic about that growth? So as we look at what's the cost of the inaccurate plan, that's where we want to move to next. And so when we understand the cost, how many in this webinar have said, hey, I've set out and said, I'm going to grow, and you haven't achieved that? And there's probably people that are watching today, and you're in that state, right? We set our goal, but we didn't have a very clearly defined path in order to achieve it. And you hit a flat line or you had a reduction in growth. And you just kind of chalked it up to the year, the economy, you lost some of the key salespeople, you had didn't have a storm, and all of that's accurate. But did you also have a miss and you just didn't have the right data? And this is where data really helps to pivot and make sure that you're growing effectively, you're putting all your dollars in the right place, and you have a very clear goal. So I want to make sure that we understand and we put ourselves in that place because every business has probably had one of those pitfalls where you said, we just didn't hit that goal. And data helps ensure that you are hitting those goals or you're able to pivot accurately. So let's go from, okay, we understand the pain. We've all been there and we don't ever want to be there again. Let's move into what does good data hygiene look like? And with this, um, I want to talk about another scenario where uh, company A came to us and they said, "Hey, we've got our CRM and we analyze their customer data and are able to give them results." And they simply had all of the core data components that they need to have an accurate read. And one thing to be aware of, everything about our lives is tracked, right? Everything on our phones is tracked, your smartwatches, your cars. And so all of this data is curated into external sources. So your CRM is a key component to merge and gain increased insights into who those people are. So this contractor A had core information, name, property information. They had some job type information, but that's where it kind of got a little spongy. And we found that there wasn't consistency in job information documented. Maybe they had long form. This was siding with this type of scenario. And then we analyzed that, and that was good. But we had company B who had consistency in their job type that was completed. And we were able to go much deeper into those records because they had consistent data throughout the entire pipeline. And I think this is really important for you to be able to understand that the more consistent your data is, and especially if you keep that consistency for 3 to 5 years, you're going to make sure that you have really accurate, well built out customer data portfolios that allow you to see with accuracy. Here's our top converting customer. Here's what they like. Here's the platforms they engage on. Here's what their common pain points are. All this information is available through external data sources, but it starts with your information. So happy to follow up and share more information on what those data points are. But the key thing to walk away from this is make sure that you have a consistent name, email, phone number, as well as a job type and address included in your CRM. Those core components are vital to understanding insights into your customer profile.
Awesome.
So let's move into pillar number 2, because I think this is a really another important component. And as I go through this, Ryan, I'd love your feedback on this because we hear so much from people where they say, "Hey, I just want more leads." And that's critical, right? We need leads. Or we're consulting with somebody and they say, "I'm not getting the leads that I want." Then we have other companies where they say, "Turn the lead factory off because I can't keep up." And that's the scenario we all want because that's the challenge we need to figure out, right? Add more salespeople. You figure it out with ops, but most people are stuck in the other two buckets where they need more leads or they don't know what the problem is to get more leads from their current marketing strategy. So we look at the persona and geography analysis component. And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've probably heard one of those two scenarios. We usually don't hear, "I've got too many leads." That's
Right.
a completely different challenge.
Yeah, most people don't have that challenge. And I think a lot of people are like, well, we want to expand to this market because they think that that's where they should go, because it's like maybe close by or whatever it may be. And I think that what I love what you bring is a different way to look at where you should expand based off of different information rather than just a gut feel or because you like the population there.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of coaches like yourself, and they said, "Hey, in the past, we would just say, do a ride along, drive through the different communities, get a feel for the houses and the type of properties that there are." But what we want to look at is who are the people inside of those properties as well, right? And you can speak more authentically to those users. That's where you get greater conversions. So let's flip over and talk about what proper analysis looks like. Because when you're talking about we need a customer match, that persona, and we need to have the geography of where your ideal customer is residing at aligned, this is where you have truly do have the highest customer match rate. And um, when we analyze your customer profile, we do a couple of different things. We're going to analyze internal data, then we're going to analyze external data, as well as third-party data sources to be able to have a robust picture of who that customer looks like. And the exciting part is you can begin to understand the media sources that they're actually consuming. And that's key. And it's really fun. We've analyzed and looked at through elections, how did behaviors shift? Because we probably all can say, hey, I don't like politics, or you're part of this camp who does like politics. And you can shift your marketing spend to align better in those areas as well, because you need to make sure you're where your customer is at. And you can also understand, hey, this customer has the money, they have the need based off the billing envelope or the deterioration of the billing envelope. And we understand what their common questions are. When you understand that, you have a whole nother realm of information you can make decisions off of, because no longer are you going off of that gut feeling. Let's talk a little bit about what is the minimum viable version of ensuring that you are able to move forward. So we talked a little bit about this, but the contact bases, basics, the services performed, and the full address is that minimum field that's needed. But when we look further down this journey, I think the most important thing to understand is that we then can begin to gain insights into first tier growth or saturation opportunities. Then we can look at a second tier as far as your secondary customer profile, and also your third tier. So how many times have you sat and looked at your market and said, we should be able to get more out of the market that we're in before we expand? That's, in some cases, a very real situation for some companies. And in other scenarios where we've worked with companies, we've said, hey, you're already over saturated in this market compared to other competitors. You own 38% of the market. And that's probably the amount of saturation, that highest level of saturation that you're going to achieve, because you're already, 10, 20, 30% higher than any competitor in the market. And that's where you need to intentionally look for new hotspots that you can tap into. So I think those are some key things to understand is make sure you have this documented, and then you can look for those new hotspots where customers are at and you can advertise to them. So with that in mind, now we need to look at the third pillar is the marketing strategy and execution. How many times have you tried to just buy your way to the top? And I hear that all the time. We did an analysis for a contractor in uh, a Midwest city, and the to buy your way to the top in that city was an easy $500,000 in paid ad spend. And he said, Anna, I don't have that. Like max I could do, even on a great year, if I double, I'm at, half of that. I would feel more comfortable with a quarter of that. And that's where leveraging data allows you to have a high saturation of marketing exposure in these hotspots, because the reality is, depending on your markets, it might be $500,000, it might be $1 million, it might be more to buy your way to the top. And your EBITDA percentage is going to continue to diminish the more that you try to just buy your way to the top. And we always say, okay, the golden component is, can we help you increase your EBITDA by leveraging dollar data, and your dollars can increase. So with that, let's dive into this third pillar just a little bit deeper, because I think this is where the money actually happens. And when we look at your customer profile, We want to make sure that we are helping to avoid those pitfalls. Most marketing strategies are going to be more of a radius campaign, or you're going to say pick and choose counties or zip codes that you target. What would happen if you could begin to focus on smaller communities, neighborhoods, or properties that have the need within the next 12 months or 36 months? That's transformational, right? That shifts from a point of pain with the roof leaking to all of a sudden you're investing in properties and homeowners that have a high likelihood of converting. That's where you can say, okay, repeat and referral business is fantastic. How do we transform that and begin to put that strategy in place for your next customer acquisition? We need to stop chasing those leads and bring stability to the business. I love talking in stories because I think it's important. Thanks, Ryan. Um, when we look at stability for business and we do growth analyses, I was on a call with a contractor. It started 6 weeks ago. We've worked with them for years. And he said, I want to grow and I want to go to this town. And I said, that's great. Let's come back to you once we analyze the data and we can look at what that growth path looks like down a corridor of a mountainous area. And he said, our ultimate goal is to go to this town. And what we were able to do with our analysis and growth map, and I had zero clue the leadership team wanted him to go right to this destination town. The owner again came to me and said, Anna, help us map this out. I need to bring this to the leadership team, why we need to go strategically in this path. And I came back to him and I said, it's a no-go. I cannot justify your path of skipping and jumping down to this town. And he goes, okay. I talked to the integrator last week and he goes, Anna, what you did was exactly what the leadership team has been telling the owner. And that just solidified from a data perspective and the competitors, the market saturation, number of homes that need solutions, and the lack of competition in the market. All of that helps say, here's why we need to make that move. And I think that's important is visualizing it, getting everybody on the same page, and most importantly, the visionary. Thanks, Ryan. Sorry, I want to share that story because I think it's important. What does that look like? So when we look at what does great look like, your messaging needs to be clear and consistent. How many times have we hodgepodge and work with a lot of different agencies, and one does direct mail, another one does a digital, another one does maybe social, and the list goes on, right? Having a universal messaging document that says, here's our personas, here's what their pain points are, and here's our communication plan, that's essential to make sure that all of your marketing partners are driving forward in the same lane. They're talking to the same customers, and there is a significant shift in consistency. So, a customer that I talked to last week, you could tell I love talking to our contractors, and Ryan knows I'm always pinging people. Hey, how's it going? What's happening? And this is essential to make sure that what we do is resonating and is driving growth for them. They named their messaging tool. It through their AI solution, it analyzes all of the communication that goes out. So they're using this on a constant basis, and they saw a 30% increase in their market of growth. That's what we're going after, right? So, anyways, messaging is essential. Making sure that your messaging is authentic and crafted for your customers based off of historical customer data is a complete game changer. That's what data can do. So, with that, here's where we're truly saying, let's bring that personalization to the table. And Ryan, with sales, that personalization can be that transformational element. And bringing that into messaging within your marketing is a complete game changer. We've seen it countless times. You can have a couple of different tracks based off of different personas and those hotspots and communities you're doubling down on. Um, we have some campaigns right now going into closed door HOA scenarios where we know that their roofs are going to need to be replaced. Communities of 100 homes, 1,000 homes, etc. And they're just getting beamed in this unique messaging based off of those personas in those communities. And so that's opening up the door to some larger conversations with the board. So just start thinking about that. How can we change and craft our narrative so it's more personalized and it's truly authentic? It represents your company, but it also solves the pain points of those customers before they even knew that they had them. So let's wrap this up. Let's say, okay, what does the fourth pillar look like? And make sure that we truly understand and take this from concept to data analysis to we're going to implement and measure and optimize this. So with that, Ryan, let's flip over to the next slide and just make sure that we're not missing how to implement this. And when we do that, um, let's as we dive deeper and we let's start talking about the cost of missing this data. So as we look at our next slide, we understand that um, there's multiple different leads that are coming into your funnel. And as we analyze those, we can begin to say, here's your three customer profiles that you're going to be able to close all day long. And that's important because no longer are you saying everyone's our customer. Yes, they can come to your business, but we're not going to naturally spend money on them. We're going to spend money on the people that are actually driving growth for our business. And so when we look at what does right look like, this is where we can shift the narrative and have a strategic roadmap. So with that, you are going to be able to say with accuracy, just like I shared with that story of going moving from slowly growing down a corridor to the main city, from one main city to the next. You could say, okay, here's what that roadmap looks like. And here's the why, and here's what our acquisition cost is going to be as well. Because you understand the marketing platforms that your customers are engaging in. You can begin to bring elasticity to the strategy as well. And I think those are some of the key components when you look at implement, measure, and optimize. You're no longer just spending everywhere, but you understand based off historic data where you're going to double down in 2026. No, Ryan, that's great. Let's move to the next slide because you can say with accuracy, here's where our people live. Here's where we're going to increase our spend. Here's where we're going. And here's the why. And they have the money to invest with us. We saw a significant increase in credit card debt, inability to finance easily in 25. And having that information at your fingertips as you look at growth is a game changer. So ask those questions. How are we going to grow, but grow naturally with accuracy? And you can, as we've shared before, you can make sure that you're spending your money in the right places. So, anyways, that's what our team works on. I'm super excited about it. We are seeing that traction. I shared a couple of stories as we went through. But Ryan, this is the shift that I'm seeing multiple companies and private equity bring to the table.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, in simple terms, the industry is becoming more competitive, more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Marketing is going to be more difficult to compete against, and you need to know what you're doing. And to just expect that organic and even door to door is gonna get you to where you want to be. It's not. You gotta know how to advertise, and you gotta know where to advertise and how to message your advertising. So it's really good, Anna. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys could in the chat, go ahead and share um, maybe something that was a helpful takeaway so far from Anna in her session here, part one. What was a helpful takeaway? Maybe it's a pain point that she touched on. Maybe it was a best practice she shared. So go ahead and drop that in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to continue on with the second half of this webinar. So now we're going to talk about sales. Sales, sales, sales. It's we can generate the leads, but if we don't have somebody who can close them, or if we're not closing them, what's the point? We're lighting our money on fire and we're not getting a good ROI. So I'm going to jump right into all that. So here's what we're going to cover. Pillar number one, the sales plan. We have to have a sales plan, right? What is a sales plan that integrates the data-driven targets that marketing can support with to help us actually hit a sales plan? We're gonna go from 0 to 20 million in this new location in year one. Okay, cool. Like how, right? How? And what is it that sales needs to do that? Pillar number two, optimize the sales process and personnel. Many companies that are making a shift to retail, right? Many companies are maybe able to do insurance. If you don't have a sales process that is going to differentiate you and then also convert, you need to do that so that it can be documented, repeatable, and you can start to predict those conversions. And that's huge. Pillar number three, an A player attraction and ramp up system. How to hire, onboard, train, and produce at scale. You need that system because you're like, ooh, it's working. Marketing's working. Great. Let's bet on this. Okay, it's working. It's working. How do we do more? How do we do more? And so, if you don't have the ability to bring on talent to come in and execute on that system, then you will be stuck. You'll hit a constraint. Pillar number four, sales management system. So, how do you actually look at pipeline? How do you coach? What's accountability look like? How are we tracking performance against goal on a regular basis? So, those are some of the four pillars. So, we're going to jump right into the sales plan. First off, your plan much mass. Hi, let's go. It's gonna get my talking tool today. Just joking. Yeah, your plan must match reality. So you got to look at market conditions, you got to look at your data. You need to look clearly at it. Most people miss just like, hey, let's just throw a number at a wall, right? Rather than let's actually back into it and what's realistic. Like I don't know about you, but like setting a goal and hitting a goal is a lot cooler than setting this goal for the moon and being like 20% of that or way short, and it's just frustrating. You feel like, man, how did I miss that badly? I just don't think you looked at the data very well. All right, not understanding what marketing spend and self-generated lead efforts are required. I do think that every sales team needs to be self-generating leads. I mean, facts. Like, we need to learn how to generate leads, even in the most marketing-heavy retail environment. Sales reps can absolutely self-generate leads. It's just like, are you planning for that, and are they accountable for that? For roofers, staying storm dependent without a non-storm plan. I think that's another big one is where you're praying for a storm to happen or you're expecting it rather than building a non-storm plan in your sales plan. So some other common pitfalls is overcommitting beyond budget crushes your margins. Um, no storm hits, so there's a huge cash crunch, and then you don't diversify in time. So you have this kind of feast or famine cycle. So it's really important to focus on add-ons, upgrades, and ancillary products and services, retail that you can actually sell and deliver on and take care of your customer. And that's something that's not dependent upon just the storm. Pillar number one on the sales plan, what does the great one look like? Well, you know exactly how many reps you need to hit your revenue targets. You're like, yep, here's our revenue target. Here's our number of what we expect per rep. Here's what they need to do per rep. Here's what they need to do every month and every week. And it's clear. You build a talent bench and plan for an inevitable churn. A lot of folks don't make a plan to know that, hey, if we hire this many, we're probably going to lose one or two. We're probably going to lose this many. And you need to plan for that. And I think a lot of folks, they build this sales team and then the sales team just it naturally there's attrition. And what happens during that attrition period is they have less revenue. And then what happens? They're like, man, I need to build a team again. And it's up and down rather than you're constantly building a team like a sports organization drafts players every year. you should be doing that too. And then you need to, a great one creates productive pressure and coaching opportunities. That's what that a good one does. Also, some other things to takeaways is make your plan durable, even when the market shifts. What's a no storm plan look like? Is there any diversification for higher end products, or maybe, and it would make sense to do a commercial strategy and add that to your strategy. And then protecting close rates. By the way, some of you guys are maybe already doing commercial here, or mostly commercial. That was intended for a residential company. Um, and then invest in sales training so skills don't dip. Like, I could tell you a lot of us have sales reps who aren't really super skilled out in the field, and then there's no intention on training and changing it, and they just hope something will change. Well, they might have some major deficiencies that have never been addressed and won't be brought to their attention, and unless a professional comes in and identifies those, and that's holding you guys back from converting. So, if that's helpful, let me know. Was this helpful on the sales plan part? Give me a little thumbs up, a little aha. Yep, that was good. That was great. Except when you stumbled over your words 5 minutes ago and embarrassed yourself in front of the entire industry, you should be ashamed and quit. Just joking. Okay. Optimize sales process and personnel, right? This is a big one. Most teams scale before they can convert. They're like, yeah, we need more, right? That's super, super important. But I think a lot of contractors miss selling consultatively. And what is selling consultatively defined? How do you define that? Well, consultative selling is the ability to ask good, great, and tough questions in the sales process and use active listening skills. Uh, Most sales reps don't do that. I don't know how many times, if you were to pay attention to sales reps, listen to the ride-alongs, go on there and listen. How many times does a homeowner say, "Man, that's a good question"? It never happens because sales reps don't ask good questions. They maybe ask surface level questions or questions that are um, not really differentiating you guys at all, right? And what I think the best salespeople do is they go from I'm an order taker, I'm an estimator, I'm bidding a roof job, and I'm going to sell you on this product and or the system, and they stay there versus we're going to create a consultative relationship where I'm a trusted advisor, and that trusted advisor dynamic and that identity separates you from everybody else. A lot of contractors miss that. They do what we call quote and hope or bid and beg. All right, let's get as many quotes out as we can and hopes we see some stuff stick. Or we show up and throw up. Right, we show up, boom, bang, bam. We come in and we try to pitch, and you can hope if you don't sign, you're gonna have to kick us out, right? And we do some hard close, hard pressure sales tactics. That is what a lot of companies miss. A lot of sales reps like to talk. A lot of sales reps like to pitch. The best salespeople like to stay calm, cool, collected, ask a lot of questions, let the tension be created through the questions, and then get sales prospective clients to close themselves. That's what the best ones do. That's a different skill. I can tell you guys that if you want to increase your sales performance, you have to do something no one else is doing. And that's the kind of stuff that needs to change is let's create a culture and a standard around a great sales process and a skill set that is unmatched. And then let's try to scale that versus let's just scale some, average, below average sales process. People do that all the time. They present too fast. They don't just do a lot of discovery and qualifying well. And yeah, it's not ideal. So a lot of contractors miss that. Some other pitfalls is they're price driven. So they're heavily focused on instead of selling value, they sell price. They don't know how to sell value, which is basically not needing to have the highest price in order to sell work. And that is something that is a skill, that is a competency that can be developed. Um, I think the high pressure closing does damage your brand and hurt and like remove trust in your market. What you really want is a market reputation that this brand XYZ contracting or roofing serves the customers, right? They really care. And I could tell you that a sales process that's built focused on questions is going to create prospects that say they care more than anyone else because they took the time to listen more than anyone else. That makes you guys trustworthy, right? Versus the opposite. We don't want to reduce trust, we want to increase trust. Um, These other pitfalls are pretty important, right? Really, really key. So I'm going to continue because of time. Pillar number two, optimize sales process and personnel. We talked about that. What does that look like? One way of selling, higher closing ratios, predictable pipeline and forecast, bigger deal sizes and bigger margins, shorter sales cycles. They're like, yes, that is it, Ryan. You nailed it. That is it. We want all these things to happen. Well, in order to do that, you need to get your process dialed to support your high performing sales and then your personnel to be able to actually execute on that. A sales process would be like saying we have this really super awesome app on our phone, but the phone is like too old, outdated, and it doesn't have this iOS system to support that phone app. That's like what having the personnel be trained to support the process looks like. All right. It's if you look at it like technology. All right. So I'm going to continue um, and move a little faster. All right. So A player attraction and ramping system. If your ramp up is sink or swim, talent will churn. If your ramp up is sink or swim, talent will churn. Most contractors miss. They don't have an onboarding schedule, no milestones, checkpoints, demonstrable proof that they can do that thing. There's no SOPs for the full sales role. So from prospecting to discovery to presenting objections, CRM, estimating, all the things that they need to do, there's like not an SOP. It's learn from Bobby, who learned from Jimmy, who learned from me, who I didn't really teach very well anyway. And it's just all a mess, if we're being honest, like for most of you. Hey, ride with me in the truck for a few days. That's the training. That's a lot of folks miss on ramping up. Um, when you don't have this in place, this is what happens. Top talent leaves without trust in the environment. Undertrained A players they start delivering B to C level results. Top reps leave because to go to your competitor. And reps learn on your customers. They're practicing on customers versus practicing with you guys, right? And it impacts relationships, it impacts sales performance. What great ramp up looks like is there's a structured 13-week roadmap, a ramp rather. They're producing before it ends. They're already winning. There's competency milestones. There's higher confidence. Customers feel it faster. You're closing faster. And it's great. There's a stronger compensation ROI selling the role through you can actually prove that with you could when you have the ramping system and you can prove it, then you could sell harder people into joining your organization. So here's some things you should include in a real ramping system: classroom training, integration into the company's story, a documented sales playbook, quizzes and tests, role play certifications, ride-alongs, and unsupervised ready checkpoints. They're ready. They can do it with even unsupervised, you know they're going to do it right. Outcomes, you got a higher retention and more aggressive growth. It becomes safer, less risk. So how many reps do you need before you expand? You need to plan that. Plan your capacity from sales and marketing investment. Don't try to take over the world. Plan methodically, right? Win the long game. To grow from 4 to 8 million, how many reps ramped are you going to need? How long is that going to take, right? No, you got to hire like knowing that churn will happen. Keep the pipeline full. We have a company we worked with called Weather Shield for years. They started about 13 million over 6 years ago. Now they're doing 75. It's no secret. They know and they have an idea who their sales reps are. They have a sales system that they use that we taught them and work with them on at STG. They have their comp plan, their structure, their success stories. They know who they're trying to go after, and they bring them on. It's pretty powerful. Uh,
Can I just jump in there, Ryan? I was talking to someone from the Weather Shield team yesterday, and testament to that. So it is truly working, and it is noticeable out in the field.
yeah, for sure. A lot of contractors miss not reviewing their pipeline consistently on a sales management system. This is the fourth pillar, sales management system. No management cadence means drifting performance. If you don't have that, you're not reviewing pipelines consistently. The contractors typically miss. They're not doing any one-on-ones. They're not using the CRM as a source of truth. They're kind of just listening to what they said, right? Hey, people lie about the numbers. Numbers don't lie about the people. Let's look at the CRM. Let's look at the facts. Touch the tools. See what's really going on. Not reviewing call recordings for blind spots. On the residential side, these are really great. I don't have the commercial space really, jumping in on those outside of Zoom calls yet. I'd love to see that change because, there's technology out there. Um, but pushing activity instead of improving skills. They're like, do more, do more, do more. Well, and then when they're actually doing the thing, they don't feel skilled, and so they get defeated. So they don't feel more confident to go out and do more because the skills aren't there. A lot of times we miss these. Contractors do. So common pitfalls of that not having a system is disengaged reps, develop bad habits, lower close rates, lower ROI, roller coaster revenue, sinks the margins, no foresight, problems become fires, and you're playing a firefighter, you're playing whack-a-mole, and salespeople run the ship instead of leadership. How many of us have seen that? Right? And then no accountability. Everybody does what they want. They're just like, hey, let's go water cooler. Let's do this. Let's do whatever. There's not, we're running a tight ship, and you feel it, and it's frustrating. What a great one looks like is you have predictable revenue, predictable performance, early detection of issues before they blow up, and a team that keeps getting better as the market shifts. A little bonus for you guys. Some of you guys can do this is sales summits. Culture is a growth lever, not a nice to have. Invest in culture. Many reps are intrinsically motivated, so they love competition, recognition, and purpose. I love this building a sales athlete culture. We talk about this a lot. So, like, athletes like to know where they measure up. They like to have camaraderie. They like to talk a little bit of smack, and it's like kind of fun. They like recognition. They want to bring in other winners because they're competitors, right? That's what sales needs to feel like that. And you guys have probably heard me in the past, and I played baseball and all that stuff, and being around college pro environments, it brought out some of the best years of my life. And so recreating that in business and in sales, I think a lot of the industry has responded really well to that, and they do consistently. In fact, we have some friends over at Stronghouse, the guys at Seek One. Stronghouse does a monthly, like a full-on monthly sales conference, like every single month, where they like make promotions. They recognize top performers. There's like, and the Stronghouse is like everybody's juiced up. They're like, yeah, let's go sell some stuff. We're not the same. That's those guys. And the Seek One, totally different vibe. They're sales athletes too, but they do things a little differently. They have little trips that they go on, and so they break away. They recognize those folks who are crushing it. They reward them in a unique experience. But you got to have something that creates an environment where winners win, they get recognized, and it's a lot of fun. Um, Sweet. So wrapping up part two, convert demand that's being created by your marketing into predictable revenue. Okay. So here's the pillar one, two, three, and four with a little bonus here at the end. So marketing expansion recap, Anna, for you.
Yeah. I think um, it's really exactly what we have on the slide here. At the end of the day, it's facts and data over feelings and gut. That your gut feeling and feelings, they're important, but that data drives all of the other results that we're looking at here. You have the precision, you don't you're no longer guessing, and you have accuracy. And you can put together that roadmap and say, okay, here's where we're going to go tomorrow. Here's where we're going to go in 12 months or 3 months or 60 days. And it is very strategic. It also, to your point, Ryan, it gives your sales team that roadmap and says, we're confident about where we're going as a company. You change the game.
Yep. Let's go. Sales recap. Get that clear sales plan. Optimize your current team first and your process. Let's get an A-player system to attract and ramp them up. Let's have a sales management system in place, and let's have a culture of predictable revenue. All right. So the big takeaway.
Yeah, just your marketing expansion, it only works when you have the right customers and your entire team understands who those customers are. That is where the gold is. And I love how the comments here shared, Drew shared, data is gold. This is exactly why it's gold, because you can attract the right customers. It's not, I wish they'd come. Now you say, I know where they are.
Yep, for sure. So, real quick, let me just make sure I know what these last slides are. Hold on. All right. Okay. I'll let you share real quick and then we will leave the QR code up for a sec.
Yeah, no, for sure. So if you have questions about how to have your data analyzed and visualize it and put together that strategic roadmap, you can scan this QR code, book a call. So there's a form there, and we'll walk you through that process. I'll also be at IRE and giving a presentation with some other data experts about this. But I'd encourage you get ahead of the wave and get that opportunity rolling. We're really excited about it.
Beautiful. Yeah, SCG, we help you scale with by scaling sales. We want to help you install systems to manage the team, to recruit and onboard and train the team, to have them run an offense of how to actually sell, whether you're doing door to door, retail, or commercial. We have all three. How to create a sales summit system, how to just create an environment for high performing cultures. So I wanted to just do a couple things. If you want help talking about your plan to expand, you can book a call with me and we can talk about what struck a chord on the call today. What are some of your biggest constraints from management talent standpoint? We can just determine if SCG can help you implement some stuff. So we're going to leave this up and allow you guys to ask some questions for a couple minutes. I know you guys may have to go at the top of the hour, but we can hang out a little longer if you guys want. So, does anybody have any questions? You can ask it right in here.
Yeah, we
Um,
do have one question, Ryan. Hillary, will this recording be available to us?
Not for you, Hillary. Sorry. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to charge you for that one. Um, next question. Of course, we can get it to you, Hillary. Yeah, does anybody want to raise their hand and ask? I can unmute you. A little open mic here. Anybody? Anyone? Anyone? Any takers? There you go.
Yeah. Our next question is from Adam. What is a great way to analyze the market trends uh, where you are planning to expand? So happy to dive in and answer that question, Adam, because it's a great one. It's one that a lot of companies face. So the key thing that you need to do is you need to make sure your internal data is accurate. And then what we do is we do a historical analysis of your current customer profile. What does it look like? And then what are the services that you want to expand into? And then we look at a geography growth map and then put that together so you can have a very strategic roadmap. And then we look at what does the competition in that market look like. And one contractor told me, he said, I don't care who's in that market. All I want to know is what is the opportunity that is there. So you can look at both of those two different things. So you truly understand all of the details in order to go and look at that growth. So you're going in eyes wide open and no rose-colored glasses to say, okay, here's where we're going to go. We've been also charting roof permits from like 30,000 contractors over the last 14 years. It's very interesting to understand what those trends look like and what happens storm driven versus retail driven.
Great. Great question.
Yeah. Next question. What makes a market a good candidate? Ryan, do you want to take that? Do you want me to take it?
That's all you.
All right. So when we look at what makes a market a good candidate, understanding your past customer profile, and then we say, what's the match rate? What's the density of those customers? And we can say, hey, you know what, Adam and team, here's a stretch customer. Here's a different customer opportunity that has some likeness, has the buying power and the billing envelope that you would probably align, but slightly different customer profile. You have a high indexation of that customer. So that's where we say you have a great uh, match rate and a good candidate match rate in your market. So it's really all about that customer profiling and looking for density and growth opportunities And you as a business owner making the decision, we're going to keep going after that customer profile or we're going to shift. And that's where sales and coaching can come alongside and say, okay, we're shifting. Let's coach that with your sales team.
Love it. One more? Anyone? Anyone? Good. You got another question, Anna. How
Okay.
can you analyze that customer profile with only the basic information, Anna?
Well, Adam, it's crazy and scary the information that you can secure off of simply an address, a cell phone ID number. It's you can find out a host of information out of that. The key component is being compliant with data regulation and policy. So we keep up on that, but we have the insights into detailed information about those customer profiles. We boil that up so you can make large scale business-based decisions. But yes, it's pretty intense. We can see where Ryan's moved across the country. We can see Anna's travel history. But we have to blank that out and only show what is actually able to be shown that's compliant with regulation.
Love it. Great. Well,
Great
ladies and
questions.
gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to let you guys off right on time. So thanks everyone for taking the time to join us, and we hope to see you at another event soon. And we'll be sure to get this recording out. So thank you guys. See ya.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Ryan.